Hey everybody, welcome back to episode 348 today. This is going to be a hard and maybe not so hard conversation to have. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Prime Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Skip Wyss, and as always, I have the amazing Dr. Julie Wyss here with me today. And today we're going to be talking about sexual health in men. Something that really needs to be talked about. In fact, about a year and a half ago, we did an episode on this. It had a couple thousand views on YouTube pretty quickly, and we need to talk about it again because we're in Men's Health Month this month in November. This is the third episode in, and something that we really need to hit upon is sexual health in men. And it is something that is wildly unpopular to talk about, except for erection medication and low testosterone. Those are the two things that are always talked about. Those are the two things that are always heavily hit on and then really heavily marketed is erection medication, whatever you want to call them, because it's an easy subject to get men's attention about, and it's a hard subject for men to talk about, so they would rather just take a medication for it and not actually get into the weeds with it per se and understand like really what's going on, why this is becoming an epidemic, and why it's incredibly alarming that fertility rates in men are starting to plummet. And it's a serious problem.
Well, I'm trying not to giggle because it's the info. No, I'm just thinking like the infomercials that like pop on the TV.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the toaster oven and the slippers anymore. It is, and they do really good marketing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's the low T and it's got the big muscle man that comes through
big
and
Frank Thomas from
you know,
T-Town.
like, hey,
T-Town.
don't you want your wives to be happy too? See
Mm-hmm.
this happy lady. Between that and you know the condom
Yep.
commercials, but it's the satisfaction, and they play it off of not even that it's an issue of okay, let's increase it or let's enhance it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're just brushing over the fact that okay, this is a serious concern, but again, just like anything, they are normalizing it that as soon as you hit a certain age, this is just what guys need to do.
It is, and it is becoming normalized that every man needs to be on testosterone. Every man needs to be on some form of pill, whether it's sildenafil or there's a couple other ones, but it's not the Viagra commercials anymore. It's not Bob Dole jumping on there saying, "My name's Bob Dole and I've got erectile dysfunction." Like
Must have
it's
missed that
not.
one.
Well, that was back in the early 2000s, late 90s when Viagra first hit the market, and then there was Cialis with the bathtubs. There's other things with women trying to talk about women taking men literally giving women. Chocolate bars with oxytocin in them to increase the female sex drive, and with men taking things like Rougiet and these other enhancements to actually literally enhance desire. Because one of the biggest things right now in marketing is they're talking about, yes, you can get a fix, you can fix the erection issue with some form of nitrogen and or vasodilator, but you can't fix the arousal. And that is a whole different ballgame. And the fact that they're marketing this to 25 to 45-year-olds, which is prime baby making years, that men are not getting aroused anymore, that men are not finding their partners attractive sexually. And this comes back to a lot of different things. And number one is overstimulation due to pornography, something that really needs to be talked about. And that can be a hard conversation for anybody to have. But what's happened is that this world has become so, and I'm not going to get in the weeds on it, I'm just going to touch on the fact that this world has become so readily available to males at a young age, extremely young age, like 8, 9,
That's
10 years
Roblox,
old.
right? Was that not?
Roblox, Grand Theft Auto is one that's notorious for having, and that one's rated TVMA, or it's
Yeah, but I don't think
mature.
anybody is looking at the ratings anymore.
No,
I
because
think
you
it's
can
just
buy them.
let's just take the video game and let's, go on with it.
Hmm.
And I think it used to be harmless because it was just like in playing, and maybe it wasn't, such an addiction because kids weren't playing
Hmm.
nonstop. Now kids are playing nonstop the
Hmm.
video games, but they can also take it on the go.
Yeah, and they can download these things digitally as
Mhm.
well, like you mean on the go. Like it's easily right there. They don't have to have the game in front of them. And what happens then is that they're exposed at a very young age, and then this thing starts to actually become a disease in a male's mind. So what I mean by that is that the man's head then starts seeking out further and further and further stimulation, and they're looking at things that just they start getting down these crazy, horribly bad rabbit holes. And then what happens is that in their mind, they think society is like this. They think women are like this. They think that women are the 300 different influencers that are out there taking their clothes off for money, doing things on camera, and then thinking that the normal, everyday, amazing woman, like the one sitting to my right, is going to act like this in an intimate setting, and that is not going to happen. And what happens then is that because that addictive, massive stimulant event that they have been allowing themselves to bring in these massive hits of dopamine through watching these things on camera or seeing these things on the internet or seeing images. It's not even images anymore. It's Instagram, it's YouTube, it's OnlyFans, it's all these pay for play platforms that now have completely destroyed how men view women intimately.
Desensitized.
Completely desensitized. And expecting, this is the thing, is expecting the actual intimate, most important partner in their life to be like the girl that's camming or on the camera. And that's just not going to happen. So what happens then is they lose this stimulation. And men out there, if this is you, being someone that's went through this when they were younger, um, pornography is something that's horribly bad for you. Something that I have tried very hard so far in my life with my son to keep him away from as much as I can and get him to understand the devaluing demonic stuff behind it. It's helped him because I know that he's not watching it. And there might be some out there that are like, "Oh, you're full of it." No, I know for a fact. I have these conversations with my son. My dad never had those conversations with me. It was always just laughed at. Saw my first Playboy when I was 12 in my uncle's closet. And then when I was found with it, they just laughed at me, giggled, and put it back on the shelf and said it wasn't for me. It's for you when you get older. And if I were to catch my son with it now, we would be having a very strong, hard conversation because I know the dangers behind it. It's no different than finding your kids with drugs. It's no different than finding them with some stimulant that you don't want them to have. And to actually lay it down and be like, this is not okay because this will change your mentality behind women the rest of your life. And that's not safe for the family and it's not safe for themselves. But what I'm getting at here is this has ruined that ability of men's ability to get aroused by seeing a woman instead of like there is nothing better than the real person. Mm-hmm. But the whole person, not just the physicalness of them, not just how they look, not just how they feel, but the actual meaning behind them, the actual brain that's running that beautiful, amazing person of the opposite sex next to me.
Well, and that's the desensitization part of it
Mm-hmm.
because then when you have that person in front of you, you don't know how to respond, but your body physically can't respond. It can no
Exactly.
longer respond to any type of desire. And so that's usually sometimes if that wasn't the issue before, then that's where we turn to that to be able to get the desire for hopes to initiate something, and it's a downward spiral.
It is, and the desensitization then happens. It's no different than children that or young adults that do mass shootings. They have zero sensitivity to what's going on in front of them. And if you think it's that easy for somebody to take a person's life, talk to any veteran that has seen actual live combat and has taken the life of somebody in the opposite country or something that they're trying to defend and fight against, ask any of them if that affected them mentally. The majority will tell you that it did, and it was very hard to do, and they never got used to it, and they're never okay with it, but they did it because they had to. They were fighting and defending our freedoms. Whatever they were told and they believed is what got them through it. But that desensitization is eventually what they're going to get to. And if you talk to people that have been involved, that have been through mass shootings, the ones that actually have survived, some are in massive remorse, the shooters that aren't dead, and some still don't care. And they're on mood stabilizing medication that has, again, desensitized them as well. So that pornography has completely changed how men react to women. And it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And you're seeing things being put out now about men, about how men can quit pornography. And literally taking them through a 16-step program and understanding like why and how it happened, what happened, and then how do you get through it? Because there's also the taboo about it that men don't talk about it.
Sure.
Like guys, like the old days of men going to strip clubs with their buddies and goofing around that way, and like to me at times is little, as dumb as this sounds, and please don't get mad, that is minor compared to what goes on cameras. It's still not okay, but it's minor compared to what goes on these things. And then what happens then is that the person that you're most intimate with or want to be can't do what you want them to do because, number one, you're not going to talk to them about it because you've just pretty much cheated on the person you loved. And then two, you can't get them to do what turns you on anymore because it's probably really crazy. And they're not going to do it because they don't understand it. And they're afraid to talk to anybody about it because they're going to feel ashamed because they know it's wrong. In their mind, they know it's wrong. Morally, they know it's not okay. So that's the first part of it. That's what's happened. So now we've created medications that actually can stimulate the brain's arousal centers in men and in women. Oxytocin is a big one that gets released. And there's a few others, but it's not just testosterone. Okay. And that is actually what turns on and moves gratification in the body. And those areas, when they're oversensitized, needs more and more and more and more. But what I tell men is this: if you're finding your wife unattractive, if you're finding your spouse, your significant other, whoever you're with, and they can't turn you on anymore, they can't get your blood pumping, what are you doing when they're not around that still makes you turn on? And you need to quit it. You need to stop. And I'm telling you, within a week, that person that was not being able to actually get you aroused will start making you aroused again very quickly, because that's all that you're focused on, and it's the only thing around you, right? And I don't mean to say thing as in women, please don't misquote that, but it's the only thing that's there to stimulate you, and that's the way it should be. But the biggest thing is getting to know that person that's there, the brain behind that body that makes them amazing and wonderful. You know, like that's a big thing. And I know we weren't expecting this to go this route, but it's something that really, really needs to be talked about in men's health because it affects men mentally hard.
Well, it's the mental aspect for the male party, and then really, I mean, just having that relationship, but it ruins marriages.
It does. It destroys marriages.
And then if there's children involved, right? So it's an entire trickle down effect. But the main issue is if nobody's talking about it, right? Then we don't realize that it's this big epidemic, that there is an actual issue, there's a concern.
Yep.
And so that's the forefront of realizing, okay, first, is this me? What can I do about it? It's like an AA, right? But there are avenues, there are ways to find that support, because clearly you're not alone. This is an epidemic, to be able to get support within.
And you're seeing this with women as well. where more and more and more women are watching pornography to get some sort of stimulation when that never used to be the case, which is telling me then men aren't doing the job either, which is overstimulation of women as well, which is leading to this massive divide right now in our country and countries around the world.
Well, I think it's also the over sexualization of the
Yes.
TV shows. Like
Mhm.
everything's been normalized. The stuff that shows up on movies, you never would have seen or heard the language and the things that's
Yeah.
happening in these like regular sitcom TV shows
Mhm.
that was never allowed to be aired. That is now common day. So we are setting ourselves, we're setting our children up for these like unrealistic expectations when we begin, when a relationship begins, that we're expecting, well, I saw it on TV, that
Mhm.
must be what normal couples do.
Yep.
And we're already really setting the bar way ahead of what's physically, I think, possible within a relationship.
Yeah, you're right. And from a woman's perspective, I would love to hear what a woman's perspective is on this when there's desensitization that's happened in a relationship. I firmly believe in our relationship that hasn't happened, but I don't know what a woman would feel like in that situation. I'm a guy. I know what guys feel like if they lose that ability. But from a woman's standpoint, I'm sure it's very mentally hard and taxing.
I think so. And I think women definitely probably are confused
Mm-hmm.
in maybe processing with it. And I think that's also like why there's this huge talk on women's health and hormones,
Mm-hmm.
because that has a huge impact. And I think menopause, premenopause, that has definitely changed over the last
Yeah.
15 years just because of how everything has changed in the world.
Yep.
So I think it's not usually the blame of, well, she's menopausal, that's why she's reacting this way. I think, yes, that's a part of the picture, but I think also for the women to double check their habits on what they're consuming, who they're surrounding themselves with, to realize, okay, am I being stimulated, that I need to get rid of that
Yep.
to be able to focus then back on my spouse.
Yeah, and be mindful of the people you keep around you.
Mhm.
Because if I'm with and this is another thing on mental health for men, if I'm with a group of buddies that consistently sits there and bashes their wives all day, I'm going to think nothing but negative about my wife. I have been fortunate to never have friends like that. And if I've had friends like that have kind of been that, oh, it's the old ball and chain, it's the wife or the spouse, I'm not hanging around with them very long. You know that.
But we've had to navigate many conversations like that.
Yes, we have. In fact, I've navigated it with salespeople when they say, "Oh, what's the wife got to say?" Is she out in the car? The wife. You mean my wife? You mean my
No
partner?
sales are ever
It's done.
happening.
It's
Men.
done. If you're trying to sell me anything and you say something to me about the wife, if that comes out of your mouth before you've even met my wife, we're done. And if you're my friends know this too, like you say that around me with my friends, I'm not sticking around very long. I'm gone. Because it shows me you have zero respect for your spouse. Zero respect. Like you become an object and you're not.
I mean, if we look at media, we look at the world, right? The biggest objective is to tear apart family.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the world and the media has done an amazing job of giving us these things for us to be able to desensitize ourselves, right? So that we no longer have to depend on someone else, that we can be strong and we can do this all by ourselves. We don't need anybody else. And it's doing a really, really good job of tearing apart the secular family, the home of what it is truly meant to be. And until, like, this is just a little piece of it, but until we can decide the different habits that we are going to enforce within our home, the rules that our families are going to live by, and then setting ourselves as a standard, just like you said, for the young boys and the young women in our households, it is like the world is going to succeed at tearing apart what a traditional family is meant to be.
Yeah, and that's exactly what the world wants. The traditional family is frowned upon now. And having a mom and a dad in the home, both spouses in the home, it's frowned upon. and it's considered, oh, you're traditional. I even had somebody say on the phone to me that those triad Christians, and I'm like, what is that? Trads is what they call them. And I'm like, what is a trad? Traditional. Oh, okay. So enough on that conversation. That's a total different conversation. But this whole concept, this talking points that we've talked about, this is what's leading to erectile dysfunction in men. And we didn't even get into the neurology of it. We got into the psychology, which drives the neurology, both the conscious and subconscious brain, the educated versus the uneducated brain, which is chiropractic philosophy. That those areas of the brain are what drive and create and communicate and get everything to work properly. So in men, generally as well, is if we can get rid of the stimulation that's caused the desensitization, we will start seeing the stuff that's traditionally meant to make us feel wanting to mate, which is our spouse, the person that's across from us. We need to get rid of the desensitization first and allow us to become more sensitive and sensitized to the person that's in front of us and with us, which is one of the most beautiful creations ever on earth, is your spouse and your wife. That's just phenomenal thing. And then if we actually look at the anatomy of everything, they're going to talk blood flow, they're going to talk all these things. Your anatomy is controlled by your nervous system. Your parasympathetics and sympathetics control everything. Your parasympathetics, which is rest and digest, controls how you get an erection, and the sympathetics controls how you move out the baby-making semen. Bottom line, point and shoot. Parasympathetic, sympathetic. And when there's miscommunication, dysregulation, not the right communication going on, that will affect the anatomy and keep it from working correctly. And one of the biggest signs we see with men with erectile issues is low back issues that manifested from a neck problem. And also smoking and drinking and using drugs, using another form of stimulant or depressor is what, again, changes the way your penis works.
Well, and so maybe just a side note on that, right? That's a lot of the ADHD medications. And so I know like sometimes those get handed around like candy, but we have to understand that. I understand the need for that for some of our children and for our adults, but you have to also understand that it's doing so much more in your body.
It is. And that's another thing, that this is now, we're 2 generations, maybe, 20, 30, 35 years in to the Adderall, ADD, ADHD, Ritalin culture of treating kids with ADD, ADHD, which most of the time is more responsive to therapy. Same thing when they talk about sex addicts, you'll hear your psychologist say that major sex addicts that are seeking constant gratification have a sign of ADD, ADHD. What a concept. What a crossover. Yet now they're in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, and they've been on this crap for 20 to 30 years.
And we wonder why there's the epidemic of infertility issues. And it always gets pointed at the woman. But the man is just as much right now, if not more, of the concern that needs to get dealt with, looked at, taken
if
care
that man's
of.
been on any antidepressants his entire life, we need to look at that. We need to see what does the body have to have done with it, with detoxification, getting heavy metals out, cleaning out the liver, taking care of the systems that actually take care of him so he can take care of himself. And guys out there, I know this is a touchy subject. I know this is a taboo subject. And the thing is that what you've been exposed to as a child, if you're my age, and was told that it was normal and it's okay, and that all of this going on in your life is just, it's all right, and these things that you're being exposed to are just normal part of life. They're not. And it's okay to talk about them. But you need to talk about them with people that you're comfortable with, whether it's a men's group that can help you, or if it's your spouse, if they can understand what's going on with you and how your mind works, and just actually not, I don't want to say accept you for who you are, but understand so they can then help you get to a better place. I think that's the most important thing. And I think that that's what's going to make you better as a person and
More
make you a better,
attractive.
more attractive, more everything.
Mhm.
It's the truth, right?
Mhm.
Like when you can actually understand it and embrace it, and then be able to talk to your spouse about, or your partner about, what's going on, how your mind's working, what you're trying to change, things like this, so they understand, and then choose to actually accept who you are and then help you get better. That's the key. That's the absolute key, guys. So again, this one was one that I knew was going to get into this. I kind of had a feeling my mind was going to roll down this route instead of the what's causing your erection issues. We need to talk about your overstimulation issues. So men out there, seek out, if you want help, comment below. You can directly email me privately if you want, drskip@primefamilycenters.com. That will come directly to me. Nobody will see that email but myself. And if you need help, if you need resources in your area, or if you just want to talk, just reach out. I'm here for you. I'm going to try to help. I am. Okay.
Big.
So we will see you all next week. I hope you enjoyed this one. Bye, everybody.